Can't breathe. I've been trying to stop hyperventilating for like the last hour. I don't know if I've heard it that bad. I think I need to take a little break. Oh, I feel like this is a little low. Okay, hopefully that works. Hey, wonderful human beings, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Remy, and I share lots of vegan content and tips to help you live well. But today we're going to be talking about why I am unwell, because as the title suggests, and you've probably already read, I got hit by a car and then I got hit by a motorcycle. I wish this was clickbait. I can't believe it's happened to me because I have never really experienced anything like this. This is probably the most severe injury I've ever really had, and it's taken me a really long time to make this video because I actually tried to make a video on the spot because I wanted to remember how I felt, and the emotions were just so much and so real and so raw and just flowing at the time, but watching it back, it's kind of embarrassing. I've never really put anything that emotional out on the internet before. I just couldn't talk. I can't stop. My hands were shaking. And I think at the time I was also a lot more angry about the people that hit me. It's so stupid. And so I wanted to kind of wait to be in a better place mentally, and just have a little bit more time to reflect on it before I shared the story. So I'm going to share the entire story, and it's kind of crazy to be honest, but I think it's important to share too because there are a lot of lessons in learning about what happened to me. And yeah, so I guess I'll just walk you guys through it. And it all starts in Bali. So if you've been watching my Bali vlogs, you'll know that I've been in Bali, Indonesia. I was there for 2 weeks. We were in Canggu, which is like a little bit more of a more developed touristy area closer to the beach, and then later we went to Ubud, which was a sort of jungly area, and that'll be important later on in the story. But basically how it works is when you get to Bali, you have a couple ways of getting around, and the most common and the most convenient way of getting around is to ride a scooter or a motorbike. You have like gas and the what do you call the acceleration. So it goes pretty quickly, it runs on gas, and the crazy thing about it is that you don't need to have a license to get one. I don't have a driver's license or any license of any kind, and it's really affordable. So anyone can pretty much get a bike in Bali, and most people do because it's the best way to get around. The roads are just about so narrow, just enough for one car basically, but somehow traffic goes two ways. There are motorcycles, scooters, cars, people walking on these small roads with no traffic lights at all. So you can imagine, and I'm gonna put a clip on the screen as well, it gets a little bit crazy as far as traffic. It's a little hectic. I didn't want to have the kind of trip where we were just kind of hanging out and doing nothing. Like, I really wanted to explore Bali, do all the things, try all the vegan cafes, so we got bikes. And as I was editing these Bali vlogs, it was like watching a bad TV show with like foreshadowing in the movie where you know something bad's gonna happen to the character. I kept talking about how I was so nervous, how I was just not that great at it on day one, and I was getting better at it, but it was still a little bit scary for me just because I'd never done it before. Okay, well, Mo's making me drive my own bike, and I've never done this before, so. And watching it now as I'm editing these videos, gosh, it just like, it's crazy to me because with all of that said, I was really being a safe driver. And I just want to preface this video before we get any further into the story and let you guys know that I was a very safe driver. The thing about me is I'm a very nervous person, which means I probably check the back mirrors, the front mirrors. I look both ways, every single way, more than the average person does. But most of the drivers in Bali, they are not careful. They don't even wear helmets. I was wearing a helmet. No matter how ridiculous I felt, I was like, look, safety first. And thank God I did that because I really don't know if I'd be okay if I hadn't worn my helmet. So what happened? Basically, on day 3 or 4 of my trip in Bali, we were in Canggu. The first accident happened and I got hit by a car. It sounds worse than it was because, being totally honest, it was so minor, and I was really, really lucky that it ended up the way that it happened. Yesterday, I got in a bit of an accident. I got really lucky. I'm not really that injured at all. Obviously I'm alive. So basically I was riding on my scooter or motorbike, and they have these slants or ramps kind of along the sidewalk because everyone rides a motorbike, so it just makes it easier for you to get off and on. There was a car that was backing up and I think lost control on the ramp. I'm not really sure what happened, but he backed up very hastily into me basically, and one other person who just like scooted by and missed it, but the driver noticed and stopped the car. It was still a little bit too late though because it hit me, so this entire side of my body got slammed by the car. I was really lucky because the other side of me there was a wall, and I got really nervous. I was actually trying to brake my bike, but you know when you're nervous and you kind of have like a freak out moment. So I actually hit the acceleration instead and I went like flying, but it was a good thing because I actually escaped being squished any further or hit. And because of the wall, I didn't hit the ground, which is really great because there's a little bit less chance of injury when you don't hit the ground or fall under your bike or fly off your bike. So I actually got really lucky, and we went to a massage that night. I cut the vlog short because once we got there, I felt pretty okay. I was a little bit sore, but I just started crying, I think because I was so scared and shocked. And the worst part is I knew I had to get back on the motorcycle to get home. So I did, and I rode it again. But again, like I said, I was really actually pretty okay. I went to yoga the next day to kind of stretch things out, and I had no really visible bruises. Nothing was broken, and I just had like a lot of soreness on one side. So I was like, you know, I've got to get over it. And I shared this in one of my vlogs too, that I kind of had no choice. So it actually ended up helping me a lot. The next day I was back on the bikes, everything was normal. Had a great day the next day, totally fine. And then the day after that, I went about my normal morning routine. I went to go to yoga by myself, which is something that I was kind of doing while we were in Bali because my boyfriend likes to sleep in and I'm an early bird. So I would go to yoga by myself. On this particular day, I went to go check out a health food market, which is the ending of my last vlog. And I went to the health food market, no issues. Today we're gonna head to a Whole Food bulk store that I'm super excited I found. It's actually only a couple minutes up the street where my Airbnb is, so I'm just gonna take the bike a couple minutes. And then after that, my plan was to go to a little bakery, and I found this really cool gluten-free banana flour bakery. But I didn't make it there because, sorry guys, it's really hard for me to tell the story because until a couple days ago, every time I talk about it, I would kind of start crying. I think it's just something that I mentally has been really shocking for me and a new experience. So after the market, I took a little break on the side of the road. I was completely off of the road. They have these kind of areas where you can park if you're going to a restaurant or cafe, and I was there, so close to the road but completely off of it. I was sitting on my bike, parked, luckily had my helmet on, and I wasn't really checking the road that much. I was still looking every now and then and looking in my back mirror because, like I said, I'm a very nervous and anxious person. But I noticed a guy behind me, and it was kind of unusual because I could see him coming directly towards me in my mirror. And I was looking in my rearview mirror, and I see a guy coming behind me, like really close, straight at me, but I'm thinking like there's no way he doesn't see me. And I was thinking to myself, it's weird that he's coming towards me because I'm not on the road. But I thought, you know, he's probably gonna turn and park as well because there's no other explanation. I was just like, there's no reason why he should be directly behind me or kind of turning into me. And I looked again just to check, and he was getting closer. He was on his phone. He's on his phone. So I'm thinking maybe he's gonna turn into the parking lot that I'm in to go to the cafe there. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe he's on his phone because he's definitely gonna slow down and park. And then I looked again, and he was right behind me and he wasn't slowing down. And then the next thing I remember was I was on the floor. So basically what happened was he drove directly into me, and he didn't even see me. He wasn't slowing down. He didn't realize he was going off the road because he was looking at his phone. And obviously he didn't see me because he was on his phone as well. I was on the floor this time, so it was significantly more of an accident for real compared to the car crash. God, sorry. Okay. So I was on the floor, and the thing about people in Bali and in Indonesia in general is they're just really so nice. And I think another thing about this is that it's really common to see accidents just because the roads are a bit unsafe and wild over there. And so the second I was on the floor, I had like, I think within a minute, like 6 people run to like help me up, get the bike off of me and lift me up. And I was bawling. The first 10 seconds I was kind of like just silent and in shock. And then I just broke down and I started crying. And I've never cried like that before in my life. Like, I could not breathe, I could not speak because I was just hyperventilating so much. It was like one of those like truly really ugly crying, like serious crying. Can't breathe. I couldn't help it, like my entire body was shaking. I'm trying to like not do this thing anymore where I cry when I talk about it because I need to get over it. But my lip was shaking a lot, my hands were shaking, my entire body was just shaking, and I couldn't stop it, and that was also really scary for me because I've never felt like that. I was trying to communicate with the guy who hit me, but I couldn't because I couldn't speak, and he was asking me all these questions. He was like, what do you want from me? Like, just tell me what you want and I'll pay for it, and like all these things. And I was like, dude, I don't care about the money right now. Like, I literally cannot speak. And I was like, just give me your number. I don't know, and like we'll talk about it in detail later, but can you just wait until my boyfriend gets here? Because remember, at the time Mo was sleeping. The guy at Eating Cafe, he picked me up and he was like, hey, come to our cafe, like sit down, have a glass of water. And I was still crying. It had been at least 10-15 minutes by this point. I was still hyperventilating, crying like crazy. I just couldn't stop, and I was embarrassed. I really was embarrassed because I couldn't help it. There was a nice Australian man who was eating at the cafe who came up to me and he was like, are you okay? Like, I saw what happened. That was insane. I hope you're okay. Like, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be okay. You know, and it meant a lot to me because I couldn't really reciprocate or have a conversation, and he just kept talking to me and being really patient, unlike the guy who just left at this point and left me there. And after a few minutes, I tried to call Mo, and I called my boyfriend, and I called him. I was still like in that crying state, and then I just was like, something's wrong. Please come. And that's all I could really make out. God, and I feel so bad too, because imagine waking up to that kind of call and you're in bed asleep in a foreign country. I felt all kinds of bad, really. Like, I felt bad for the person who was helping me. I felt bad for everyone in the cafe. I felt just, but that's besides the point, right? My boyfriend showed up. We thanked the cafe people. By the end of it, they were cleaning my wounds, like everything. They were just the kindest people. I mean, I don't think they're watching this video, but I really have endless gratitude for everything they did for me. So boyfriend came, we looked at the damage of my bike. The mirrors were broken. The side of my bike was totally like wrecked and hit. I think there was like a piece in the front, like a plastic part that just fell off completely. But unfortunately, the crazy thing is that like we had to go back on the bikes to get home. So it took a solid 30 minutes. I just kept trying to breathe. I was trying to stop crying. I didn't successfully stop crying, but I felt like I was in a place where it was like, okay, I can do this. I can drive home. And it was probably only like a 2-minute drive, but in the state I was just in a lot of shock, I think is what it is. So I got on the bikes and we rode them home. We took them to the person who we rented them from and showed them what had happened. And it wasn't good. Mo handled that, and I just was trying to stop crying, assess the wounds. It was pretty rough. Like, my dress was ripped. I was crying hysterically like in the video. And that went on for like at least an hour or so. But the thing is, it was really stressful because we actually had to move Airbnbs to a different part of Bali, which was Ubud. So the same day, there was just a lot going on. And I just wanted to stop crying. That was like my main focus. And as stupid as it sounds, I'm like aware that this sounds very silly, but I also started to become afraid that I wouldn't stop crying. And I couldn't control like my breath, and it's just really scary when you feel like you can't breathe and you have no control over your body and your breath, like things that you have control over and you do so effortlessly without thinking on a day-to-day basis. It was just very scary. So I was crying like crazy. I was also trying to text this guy and say like, look, I don't want anything from you. I just need you to really pay this person who we rented the bike from, because for us, it's not that much money. You know, I was actually shocked at how affordable the damages were for us. But I didn't feel right about leaving without paying her. So I said, hey, I'm going to give you half of the money now. I've texted the guy who hit me and he's going to come and pay for it. And he agreed to this, you know. I think it's only fair, right? And honestly, what a good deal. You only have to pay for half of the damages. So I text this guy and I say, I don't want anything from you. Just pay this lady and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we're going to this different part, Ubud, so just deal with it and let me know after you've paid her. And he tries to make small talk with me. He texted me and he said something like, is it your first time going to Ubud? I'll send you some recommendations. And I was like, no, dude, we're not doing this. I don't want your recommendations. Like, he hit me on a bike, like said sorry like once maybe, but like didn't acknowledge the fact that he was on his phone, which also made me so angry. I'm getting heated just talking about it, as you can tell, but I just, in the moment, I was so angry. So anyway, fast forward all of this, we go to Ubud, and I basically spend the next week in bed because it's kind of funny how like these things happen. I think at the moment there was a lot of adrenaline and I was distracted by like the crying, the shock. But when I woke up the next day, I truly felt like I'd been hit by a bus, like my entire body hurt. I remember I couldn't really sleep that night. And another really weird thing, and this was my biggest struggle truly, was like mentally, I could not stop crying. Like I would randomly start crying in the middle of the day. I would sometimes be crying and not realize it. Like tears would just be coming out of my eyes. Yeah, and I would wake up crying, I would go to sleep crying. I would also get frustrated at the moments where I couldn't walk up certain stairs by myself or just walk straight.
Whoa, check out these flowers.
It was really challenging in that sense, and we just stayed home a lot, and I basically took days off of vlogging because I just couldn't hold myself together, and it was an ugly time. The injuries started to get worse and worse every single day. So there was a lot of bruising, there was a lot of swelling, but it kind of gradually got worse. So on the day of, it was actually not so bad. Like there were a lot of cuts and blood and scrapes, but as far as like the bruising, obviously it didn't just immediately show up. It became kind of this game where I would wake up in the morning and wonder like what my legs would look like. And it was pretty disheartening. Like I had never really seen my legs look like that, and I'll put up some pictures here. But really, really intense deep bruising. I went to see like a quick clinic there, but I didn't go to like a real doctor because A, we didn't have time, and B, it was just not within reach of where we were staying. So I just decided to give myself some rest, time to take off. And yeah, that week was just a blur. It was a lot of crying, a lot of anger, a lot of like pain, like physical pain. I've never really been in that much physical pain before in my life. And imagine being in Bali where like the roads are not straight, they're not flat, there's like gravel everywhere, rocks, like everything's uphill. It was really, really, really challenging. We didn't get to do a lot of the things that we wanted to do while we were there, but of course Mo was really understanding, and of course like healing was the priority. So that was that. So about a week after, we went back to Canggu, and I checked in with this guy again, and I said, hey, have you paid the bike lady? And he said, no, I've just been really busy. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy is here on vacation and he's busy. It just made me so upset because like I said before, like this is someone's livelihood and their work, and it's not okay or fair, you know? So I was really upset by that, by him just telling me that. It made me angry all over again. And this whole time I had this feeling where I was a bit hesitant to kind of be rude to him or angry because I didn't want him to not pay the lady. Like that was my biggest priority. So I wanted to kind of encourage him to pay her faster, and I said, look, I know the lady, and I gave her your phone number, and if you don't pay her, I'm going to be not only very upset, but I am back in the area, and I'm going to make sure that she gets paid because this isn't right. And I think the one thing that really was upsetting to me throughout this whole thing was that he never really acknowledged the fact that he was on his phone. Like when he hit me, I told him, you were on your phone, and I was kind of babbling, but I was like, I wasn't even on the road and you just hit me, you were on your phone, like saying this thing, and he didn't really acknowledge that. He just said, I didn't see you. And I'm like, well, no, duh, you didn't see me. You were on your phone. So in that final text to him, I just told him, look, this is the last text I'm going to be sending you. Don't ever use your phone again when you're driving. Don't ever use your phone again when you're driving. I don't care what you're driving. And this goes out to anyone watching and anyone everywhere who's driving anything, whether it's a scooter, a skateboard, anything. Don't use your phone. Don't be that person. Don't be that person, because these things happen all the time. I'm really lucky to be alive. And so this has been a big learning moment for me. Like I do not take risks anymore when I'm in the car. I wear my seatbelt. I don't care if it's like a 5-minute drive or down the road, I wear my seatbelt. It's not worth it. So injury wise, things kind of got better and worse. Day by day it changed. The crazy thing for me is like the bruising just didn't stop. It started to like grow up my leg. I'll put some pictures on the screen here of what it looked like when it was at its worst. It's pretty graphic, so just warning. And when I got on the plane to go home, I was honestly really relieved because I was like, I need to be back at home and see a doctor in the US. And the craziest thing by far, and the worst my injury's ever been, was after the plane ride. Keep in mind the flight was 25 hours to get home, but just the air pressure change was really, really bad for my leg. So it blew up. This right leg in particular blew up. The swelling was insane. The bruising, it was like the most unsightly thing that I'd seen, and the worst it had been this entire time. And the craziest thing is like I had a lot of water retention, I think, in the area. And so I was wearing leggings and I was also wearing a foot wrap, but there was a little bit of space in between the foot wrap and my leg. So when I took off my leggings and my foot wrap when I got home, that area of skin that was exposed was so swollen, it was like a donut around my ankle. Like that's how bad it was. When I was home, I just couldn't really walk very much. My foot would not fit into sneakers. I couldn't fit into shoes. No boots. Boots are out of the question even to this day, and it's winter in New York City. So I actually wore socks and slides on the flight to go home because that's the only thing that would fit. So it's just, the injuries were pretty bad, and I tried not to kind of share it on social media or video because I didn't want to be negative, but really truly the injuries were pretty severe. I was pretty sure that nothing was broken, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I went to the doctor, and we haven't done an x-ray yet, but just by looking at things, and I showed him like the pictures, I tried to document the recovery of the swelling and the bruises. He said that he didn't think anything was broken. If anything, there's potential for a hairline fracture or something torn in like a ligament, but other than that, he thought I was pretty okay. And I agree, because I was able to kind of walk for the most part. I walk a little bit like a pirate. I'm very slow, even it's now almost going to be a month later. I'm very, very, very slow when I'm walking. My upper body's completely fine, so that's a blessing as well. It's kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm due for a checkup in about 2 weeks where I will be getting an x-ray because there is a little bit of a lump on the outside of my right ankle that just doesn't seem to be going away. And we thought it was swelling, but it's still there and it's hard. And there's a part of my shin that just kind of, it feels like the pain like lights up and shoots up when I step in a particular way. So we'll be checking on that. But I just want to end this video by saying that I'm okay now. It's just, this was something that I felt like was important to make a video about, but that's what has happened. My leg's getting better every single day. There's still a lot of bruising. I'm so lucky to be alive. And I've now found the silver lining, because this whole time I was looking for some kind of divine meaning and wondering like, why would this happen to me? Like, why would I get hit not just once but twice? And I couldn't understand like, what is the lesson here? I was so frustrated because I couldn't find lesson, and I was desperately looking for one, really, but I couldn't find any good to it. And I guess the silver lining here is that 1, I'm alive, and 2, what's in front of me was just a cement wall, and he wasn't wearing a helmet. And if he hadn't gone and hit me, he would have drove directly into that wall and been a lot more seriously hurt. He just walked away without any injuries. But if you can imagine, without someone screaming when you hit them, not kind of urging you to slow down or think like, wait, what just happened? He would have just hit the wall. So I try to think of it that way. And maybe this was really a lesson for him to stop driving recklessly the way he was. And that's kind of all I can think of at this moment. This has been a really humbling experience not to be able to do yoga even, and a lot of the workouts and movement I'm used to doing. Even just walking is challenging, you know? And I guess if anything for me, it's been an opportunity to really slow down because I have no choice, reconnect with my body and just take things slow. So I'm sorry this isn't really much of like an uplifting video, but we'll be back with another Bali vlog after this, and I want you to know that I am on my way to healing. My energy feels a lot more like me again, and I'm gonna be okay. It's all gonna be okay. So I'm sorry if I scared you with the last video. Just know that I'm okay. Time heals all. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in another one soon. Bye.